Projection. It's something that comes up all the time when clients are trying instruments. So I thought I'd give some tips on how to assess projection, especially if you're in a smaller space. It's one of the biggest concerns musicians have, and understandably so. You're investing in a serious instrument and want to know how it will actually perform in a concert hall or with an ensemble, not just in a smaller space with a low ceiling. This is a challenge, and the acoustics often don't help. Trial rooms can be really dry, or on the other end of the spectrum, a bit too boomy and forgiving. That can make it a little tricky to judge how the instrument will behave in a much larger space. This is compounded if you're trying instruments alone and don't have an extra pair of ears to help you out. But the good news is, if you know what to listen for, you can still get a very good sense of an instrument's projection without needing a concert hall. The first thing I listen for is focus. This doesn't necessarily mean volume. It's about how clearly and directly the sound projects, whether you're playing loudly or softly. A focused instrument has a way of sending the sound forward. Under the ear, it might not feel overwhelmingly loud, but the tone should have a clear, concentrated core. I often say that the sound should have a laser-like quality. A diffused, glowing sound might feel warm and pleasant in a room, but it can lose its impact at a distance. Focused sound, on the other hand, will feel a bit more pointed when you're playing and tends to carry much better in a hall. You might even notice that the sound feels like it's shooting out in front of you. That's a good sign. Trust that directness. It's usually a great indicator of real projection. The next thing I listen for is edge. This is one of the most misunderstood qualities in a violin, especially when people are coming from instruments that are very mellow or warm. Edge is a slight bite or grip at the beginning of the note. It gives the sound a certain articulation, clarity, and presence. It's what allows it to cut through a texture. Now, under the ear, this can sometimes sound a little harsh or even unpleasant at first, especially if you're used to coming from something very round and forgiving. Edge can feel a bit too aggressive. But that initial impression can be misleading. In reality, a good, powerful violin does need edge. It's essential for projection. It's what lets the sound pop out and be heard across a room or a hall. That doesn't mean it should be scratchy or abrasive, but it should have definition. Like a clear consonant at the beginning of a word when you're speaking, it helps shape the note and push it forward. If you think of singers, they always overly articulate everything so that the listener can hear the text under the music. Of course, if there's too much edge, it can become distracting to play or to listen to, but a violin that's too soft or polite with no edge at all will often disappear in a bigger space, no matter how beautiful it sounds up close. So when you're trying instruments, don't shy away from a bit of edge. Learn to distinguish between what's unpleasant and what's powerful. It's often the latter that turns out to be the violin that really carries. The next thing I wanted to discuss is the feeling of being able to dig into the sound. Now, this is more about how it feels under the bow rather than how it sounds to someone else, but a great violin should give you a sensation that you can lean in, apply pressure, and it still responds beautifully. The sound doesn't collapse or get pinched, it just sort of opens up and gives you more. That sense of continuous headroom is a key indicator of a high-quality instrument. The last thing I want to touch on is resonance. This is one of those qualities you can really feel even in a small room. It's not just about the volume of individual notes, but how the whole instrument responds and vibrates when you play. A resonant violin will ring back at you. It feels vibrant and alive. A great way to test this is by playing single notes and double stops. Try octaves, thirds, sixths, anything that engages multiple strings. You'll start to notice how much the notes interact with each other. On a really resonant instrument, those intervals create beautiful, complex waves of sound with a lot of bloom. You should feel the whole wood vibrating under your left hand, not just the sound coming out. This is closely tied to overtones, which are incredibly important for projection. When an instrument produces strong overtones, those subtle higher frequencies that sit on top of the main pitch, it adds complexity and richness to the sound. It also gives it more amplitude and allows the instrument to carry without needing to be pushed. Even if you're playing at a moderate dynamic, the overtones give the sound depth and reach. In a bigger space, this is often what allows the soloist sound to travel over an orchestra or fill a hall. So don't just listen to how loud an instrument is, listen to how richly it rings. If you stop playing and the violin keeps resonating, that's a good sign too. The instrument is doing its job, adding layers and energy to the sound beyond what you're putting in. So yes, trying an instrument in a small room isn't perfect, but if you focus on these things, clarity, edge, how much you can dig in, and overall resonance, you'll get a very accurate picture of how it's going to perform in a bigger hall. In my experience, it's very rare that my assessment of an instrument changes once it's out of the showroom. If you know what to look for and feel for, a good trial tells you almost everything you need to know. Here are 4 violins that we currently have that I think have great projection. So I chose 3 violins from our showroom that are currently available that I thought all demonstrate projection very well. They all have slightly different timbres and sounds, but they all have the qualities that I think make them a projecting instrument. Now, to demonstrate this, I'll be playing an excerpt from a Brahms sonata. The first violin I'll use is the one that I've been using in the video, the Dominik Wlk. Now, this is a very rare violin. Dominik was a student of Peter Greiner for a long time. He is now based in Germany. He's a very sought-after maker and has quite a long waiting list, so we're really pleased to have this beautiful Stradivari model. Now, the next violin I want to demonstrate is a Guarneri model by Stepan Soultanian. Now, we work with Stepan quite a bit. He makes very nice violins for us. This is a particularly impressively powerful Guarneri model of his, and definitely showcases projection very well. And the very last violin that we have here is our very own Atelier MyLuthier violin. This is also a Stradivari model. It's the last one we've made in our series. It has a very beautiful, warm, I would say quite well-rounded tone, but has very good projection when needed. There you have it, 3 violins, all with different sounds, all very good makers, and all have those elements of projection that I think most players are looking for.